It's now 11 minutes past 9. Time to talk high-tech, the high-tech stories of the week. We do it with Paul Brislen, twitter.com/Paul Brislen. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thanks. And first up, we're looking at this investigation by the Commerce Commission into Sky TV and particularly the content arrangements and content contracts that Sky has.
That's right. With the ISPs, yes. So Sky has signed this joint venture with TVNZ. It will be able to provide a service called Igloo, which is yet another set-top box. So now I can see on top of your TV you're going to have the Sky decoder and then the Freeview decoder and then the now the Igloo box as well, and you'll have to work out how to plug them all in, and it'll all be rather jolly.
Yeah.
But maybe not. But for $25 a month, you get Sky Lite in effect with free content. And the concern is that because this is Sky, the country's number one pay TV provider, and TVNZ, the country's number one free-to-air provider, that somehow this might potentially be anti-competitive. That it might be a slight problem in terms of promoting competition. The Commerce Commission's had a look at it and said no, there's no problem there, which is very interesting and speaks more about the problems of the of trying to fit competition law in New Zealand to every case. Because currently they don't seem to be able to find anything anti-competitive, whether it's supermarkets merging or TVNZ and Sky getting together. So it's a bit of a problem. But at the bottom of the press release, at the end of the discussion about why they're not going to regulate or investigate further this joint venture, they said, however, we are concerned by some of the things we've heard about Sky's relationships with the ISPs. So we will be launching an investigation under two sections of the Act to have a look at whether Sky is abusing its position of dominance in the market and whether or not these contracts will lessen competition. And that's been roundly welcomed by just about everybody except Sky. So it's going to be very interesting to see just what comes of it.
Well, yeah, it will be interesting to see. But is there a worry that the Commerce Commission is just going through the motions? They see that there's some people are unhappy with the contracts that Sky has. Look, we'll investigate, blah, 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 and we'll come out and say it's okay.
It's all good. Well, there is that potential because the way they're interpreting the Commerce Act is very, very narrow. And so I think the problem lies there. What we're doing is we're looking at everything piecemeal, one aspect at a time. So, for instance, in this decision about why they won't investigate Igloo any further, they say, Sky has 7 of the 8 frequency slots for digital terrestrial television. All of the rest of television that you get in New Zealand is on one slot, the 8th slot that's owned by Cordia, which transmits all of the signal for everybody else. Sky owns the other 7 slots. Now, that's just dropped in there in passing and is never mentioned again. But surely Sky having that many slots sewn up means that nobody else can come into the market. Surely that should have been part of the decision-making process. But apparently no, because they're purely looking at the relationship between TVNZ and Sky and whether that will lessen competition, not how much competition there is at the moment. And for my money, that is that says to me that what we're likely to see under this new investigation into the ISP contracts is a very limited opportunity for any form of broader look at the entire industry. What I'd much rather see is a full-blown government-level inquiry into the entire sector, which says, is it time for us to have a broadcasting regulator? Do we, in fact, need to have proactive regulation that will allow telcos and ISPs and broadcasters all to work together and to do the right thing?
Because one wonders whether or not you can actually get to the bottom of this and get to grips with this topic if you don't acknowledge that all of this really goes to the heart and problem of piracy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that is the problem, that what we're seeing is a discussion about one aspect of the industry without any reference to all the other bits as well. And unfortunately, the industry now is not made up of 2 distinct parts, broadcasting and telecommunications. It's all one big thing. It's just a different way of looking at exactly the same process. So unless we get that sorted and unless there's some acknowledgement at government level that this is a problem, I think we're going to be stuck having a look at a little aspect of it and a little sliver of the problem time after time, saying, no, this isn't the problem, no, that's not the problem, no, there's no issue over here. But when you take it as a whole, yes, there is a problem, and that's what needs to be addressed.
Okay, moving on. Telecom and Telecom broadband users have been frustrated this week with their email being blocked by something called SORBs.
That's right. So this happens from time to time. SORBs is a blacklist of IP addresses. And what happens is somebody discovers a huge amount of spam coming from one particular IP number, and they use these lists to blacklist that particular IP number. But what they don't tend to be too discriminate about is how many other people are in that IP range, and it tends to knock entire ISPs offline. Telstra Clear's had a bit of a run of bad luck over the last few years with it. This time it's Telecom's turn, and what it means is that everybody on Telecom suddenly finds they're unable to send or receive email from another major provider who uses SORBs as their blacklist. It's one of these issues that's grown up as a bit of a byproduct. It's an accident of what goes on. SORBs and SPUs and all the other blacklisting services that are out there are a great idea. You as an ISP, a small ISP, doesn't have to sit there and work out which IP range is sending all the spam. You just block, you just adopt SORBs or SPUs or whoever it might be's list, and away you go. But it does mean that when somebody inside Telecom New Zealand's customer base starts spamming everybody, then the whole customer range gets knocked off, and it ends up in the mainstream media, and everybody gets very angsty about it, which is, who sends email anymore? That's what I want to know.
Well, and whenever I hear these stories, I always feel slightly smug, having been a Gmail user for, must be a decade now, I suppose. The other week we heard about some business had their emails deleted on the Allcon servers, even though it looks like it was actually the fault of the business. But what is the business case for using a local ISP's email service these days?
Well, these days you'd have to say there's no case at all. Google is free. You can. What I think a lot of people don't realise is you don't necessarily have to have a Gmail account. You can have your business email domain using Google as the back end. So what it means is that you've got all the benefits of Google, all of that firepower in terms of server capacity, redundancy. They've got servers all over the world, and this kind of thing just doesn't tend to happen to them. But a lot of people still stick with their ISP, certainly with their email address that they were given all those years ago, and it's probably a .extra.co.nz or a clear or a paradise.net.nz. There was talk for a while about introducing some kind of email portability, so I could keep my .extra account and move to another provider. That gets very messy, and I just think those days have gone. If we'd introduced it 5-10 years ago, then maybe it would have made a difference. But as it is today, just get yourself a Gmail account and forget all about it. Port your address over to Gmail. I got my own domain name many years ago, and a friend of mine had hosting in the States, and he just let me piggyback off that. Every month or so, they double his capacity. So, he's never come back and said, "Hey, can you sort out your astonishingly large backlog of dead email?" It just all sits there. Yeah. But it's a similar kind of service. It's just so massively large that why wouldn't you? I mean, what did the locals give you? It's about 5 megs of capacity, is it? Or have they increased it recently? Who knows? It's too risky.
And also these days, whether you know it or not, you also have a Facebook email address. And talking about Facebook, will you be?
Oh yes, will you be tomorrow?
Yeah, purchasing a chunk.
Hold on, I've got my wallet here somewhere. No. No, Facebook is evil and should be shunned at all costs. While they use me as their product, there's no bloody way they're getting my money. So I have very little time for Facebook. It annoys me endlessly. As you know, I've tried to switch it off, and it's almost impossible to switch off. And unfortunately, I've got relatives around the world who simply use Facebook as a kind of replacement for the internet. They just don't do anything else. So to stay in touch with them, I have to have an account. All I do is post stupid cartoons that other people post, and I just circulate it around. That's the total limit of it. The one that bugs me, though, is when you get all of those invitations to look at something, and you've got to sign up for an application to do that, and it wants to install some crap on my machine, and I can't say crap on the radio, can I? Certainly not when I'm talking about Facebook. Yes. No. Dislike.
Dislike, unfriend, dislike, disconnect, unplug. And talking about that, I read an interesting article this week about how some of these apps are getting into Facebook and through the Facebook API or whatever, and are going up the rankings through kind of strange methods and skullduggery, really, like the social cam.
Yes.
You might have seen that one popping up, and it'll be a video of a man eaten by a shark or something. But in order to watch it, it turns up on your timeline, and you may not even know that you've done that, and that's how it spreads itself. And Facebook really have to shut that stuff down if they want to be a long-term proposition.
I mean, if they want people to continue to give them their information, they've got to play nicely about what they do with it. I quite often see friends who clearly have had no idea what's going on suddenly popping up on the side saying, Glenn really likes Visa. Yeah. And I know that you haven't sat there and posted that. It's ridiculous. But, they seem to think that I'm going to go, I must get rid of my MasterCard at once. Glenn says buy Visa. So, it's craziness. It is crazy. It will make a fortune tomorrow, I'm sure. Yeah. Enough to buy several times over. But, it's bizarre. And I fully expect that in 5 years' time we'll be having the conversation about something else. Anybody remember Facebook? Wow, didn't that go belly up in a hurry? Because people will get sick and tired of this kind of stuff eventually and move on to something else.
On this day, Friday the 18th of May 2012, Paul Brislen made a prediction. Go and search for it in 5 years' time back on YouTube.
2017 in the future. Yes, that'll be good. We'll have hoverboards by then. I'm
going to put that in my diary now. On my Google diary, which should hopefully still be around. Thanks very much, Paul.
That's right. Thank